All right, welcome back. We have a guest today, Tyler Selikson. He has been a member for a few years now. We've been wanting to get him on the podcast. He's a guy who's here, every day he's not working at the firehouse, and has just really put the time, effort, and energy into getting great results and doing some really cool stuff. So, we wanted to get him in here and just kind of hear his story, and then talk about how we got ready for a race where, I would see him and some other guys, they're putting in several hours of work a day, and just want to kind of learn more about that process. So I think, Tyler, we can just kind of start out just give us a little background about growing up, maybe sports that you like playing, and then just your workout background, where you trained before you came here. And we can kind of even segue into your CrossFit, getting started here and all of that as well. But just start from maybe the beginning, as a kid and, playing sports and stuff.
Sure. Well, growing up, obviously my parents put me into a lot of different sports. Played baseball and soccer were the two sports I started with. And then kind of from there, I was the child that wanted to try everything because everything looks fun.
Yep.
Everybody wants to do lacrosse once. My dad said it's too expensive. Same thing with hockey. But I was a very competitive kid. If somebody could do something, I tried to emulate them, tried to watch how they did things. I think back in our era, Brandon, for sure, is watching the pros, and especially in baseball, watching Ken Griffey swing, watching Sammy Sosa swing, you try to emulate that. And then now you're trying to transition that into my own kids. If you got to watch how they swing the bat, watch how they're stepping towards the pitcher. And I think I had a lot of opportunities as a kid with my parents. Also, my dad was very active. He plays tennis, 72 now and almost 73, and he still plays competitive tennis.
That's awesome.
At Northam, works out every day. But we have heart disease on both sides of my family, and my dad, as much as he worked out, had a artery in his heart clogged 98%. And I was playing baseball at ODU when I got that phone call that, the surgery went well. I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
What are you talking about? And then my stepmom was like, oh, he didn't tell you? And I'm like, tell me what? And then my dad got on the phone loopy. He's like, oh, yeah, everything went great. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he broke it down, and it's hereditary. So, getting into the whole workout game is pretty big for me, especially the line of work I'm in. There's a lot of firefighter deaths because they just don't take care of themselves. The sleep habits that they don't have, crappy food they eat at the fire station because, you want a lot of food, family style serving, a lot of pasta, and that was just enough for me. And then again, going back to growing up, and Kate, we just touched on this a little bit ago about, how we grew up is different than how, the knowledge we know about food and nutrients and eating the right stuff now, and how important sleep is. Back then, I was going to bed late, waking up super early, just didn't care, right? Because you're a kid, who cares? Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because chips were fine, it just didn't matter. It's downing Gatorade like it's water, and now you're I would never do that.
Yeah.
But again, I played baseball growing up. I played up into college. Played soccer up until about
what position?
Baseball. In baseball, so I was a catcher and third baseman.
Okay, I was gonna say I feel like you would be a good catcher.
Grew up, and it was hard.
That's the hardest position. I played for a few years catcher.
Yeah.
I wish I would have stuck with that.
Oh, you're tall, man. I ought to put you at first.
Well,
I want somebody that can jump.
So I wasn't growing up. I was small and short, but I ended up playing second.
Yeah.
So, but catcher is the position. I was probably the best at it, and you're engaged with the game the whole
always.
time. Yeah.
Always. You're the leader. I mean, you're the quarterback essentially when it comes to that. You're keeping everybody on. Here's the situation you're in. You're telling them where to go with the ball. I mean, you're the voice. And I learned that the hard way.
Yep.
I had to run a lot because I wasn't quite understanding my role when I first got into it. I got really lucky when I was in 8th grade. My best friend's cousin was our coach on a travel team, and he caught all 4 years of Mount Union.
Oh, cool.
And he was very big on, no, you're doing it right. You're doing it. I was like, can I get knee savers, man? He goes, no. He's like, those are for sissies. You get lazy. And I'm like, what? So, but I mean, that's how I was. It was a single dad. That's how I grew up. I lived with my dad from about 10 on. So we were both kind of building the plane as we fly it, if you will.
Yep.
My dad was very big on here's the rules and that's it. You know, how you stay inside those rules and stay inside those guardrails, that's on you. But, you know, if I have to answer something, I have to answer for it. And, you know, that's the discipline my dad taught me. He was raised by my grandpa, who was World War II, didn't finish high school, but was a workhorse. That's exactly what my dad was.
I would imagine you're more independent that way as a kid. Like,
Oh yeah.
Probably by the time you could drive, you were more or less a grown up.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and not tell my dad when I'm hurt, right? Because I don't want to come inside.
Sure.
Because then I have to sit inside because now he's like worried. So I just never told him. Come in with scrapes and big cuts. Be like, where'd you get that? And I was like, I don't know. You know, it's just because I don't know how to answer this because you're not always around, you know?
Yeah.
But like you said, independence was really big when I was a kid.
Yep.
And then but you know, that transitioned into sports. I mean, it transitioned into not having my dad be best friends with the coach, made it a lot harder. You know, you're seeing all these other kids, and when you're in 8th grade, middle school, high school, you do ask those questions of how come I don't get these breaks? How come you can't be friends with the coach and get me on the field like everybody else? And
Yeah.
I have an appreciation for it now because it taught me work ethic. It taught me, okay, I may not be the best baseball player, I may not be the best catcher, you know, I may not hit home runs. I was like, but nobody's going to outwork me because that was my dad's big philosophy. You may not be the best, you may not be the biggest, but there's no reason somebody should outwork you. It's like that's all your drive. Your last name's everything. Like Selikson is everything. You attach it to something, it's in everybody's memory, good or bad. It doesn't matter. It's attached. So a lot of things now, being as old as I am now, it's like, okay, if I'm saying, I check that, I thoroughly check something.
Yep.
You know, especially at our job, you got to sign off. Yeah, I check the equipment. It's all there. Like if I'm saying that, there better not be a doubt in my mind that I skipped something. You don't cut corners because then again, if it's not done great, now it's Selikson check. Now we got to check it. You know, I don't ever want that.
Yep.
You should go work for Boeing.
No doubt.
So coming out of college, into, you know, your career, so once you were kind of wrapping that up, what did you get into like work-wise?
So it's kind of funny. Got an accounting degree. Not quite sure how I accomplished that.
It's like Dan.
I know. That's what I was thinking. Dan has a degree. It's something with math. Is it accounting?
Financing or something?
Yeah, finance. Yeah. I'm like, what? You're like the
Economics.
worst. He doesn't even know if he gets paid or not. He's like, Brandy said that maybe I didn't get paid. I'm like, oh yeah, whoops.
Yeah.
we made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
It's like a good pre-accounting degree, but yeah.
He needs to look at my. That's funny.
It is. Like when I look at that stuff, it was just something where like I was good in numbers.
Yep.
I remember numbers really well.
Yeah.
Told my old man, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get an accounting degree. And he goes, what? I was like, yeah, they make a lot of money, man. And I was like, and I'm good with numbers. And he goes, you know that they do more than just numbers, right? I was like, no, but I can't figure anything else out. So I ended up getting that, but I was working in a restaurant, the Rusty Bucket at the time, and just things started going. Started off at the very bottom there when I was done with baseball, still in college. Started as a cook and a server, cooked for quite some time there, and then served, and then got promoted as a bartender. Bartended there for a long time, and then moved around. But I moved around because I ended up opening up the Easton location.
Okay.
Just as a lead trainer, and then I got promoted off of that as a dining room manager, and then worked there for about 8 months, and then I ended up opening up the Naples Rusty Bucket down in Naples, Florida.
Oh, cool.
Which was an experience. That's where Max was born, our oldest. So we ended up having to come back because we had no family down there. And then when I came back, actually when I moved down there, I had a friend on the fire department call me. It's like, dude, you got to take the test, man. He goes, you'd be perfect for this. And I was like, they just moved me down to Florida, man. Like, I can't do that. As in, I feel I'm pretty loyal. So I'm like, I can't just quit. So when I came back, I wasn't very happy just with the hours.
It's hard to raise a family with those hours. That's
100%.
That's what my brother does. So he's in the restaurant industry, and it's so hard to be healthy.
Oh,
you know,
100%. Again, and it kind of goes hand in hand, which I'm pretty fortunate I had this too. But in the restaurant, I mean, your hours are crazy. You don't really have downtime. You're eating on the run. You know, somebody messes something up instead of throwing trash. I'll take a bite, throw it away. You know, you're not eating healthy. Same thing with the fire department. It's a mindset. The best way to describe it. there are some people that are very good about it. Doesn't matter how busy they are. They're very regimented. Yep. And again, it's a mindset. Like, I've realized people make excuses a lot, my family included. And I typically shy away from the excuse, and I'm more lean into what's hard and what's difficult, just because I've seen the other side of people making excuses. And just touch on this quick. Like, I'm not real close to my mom because of decisions she's made, right? There's 1,000 excuses of why I didn't do something or why we didn't do this year. And I just don't want that for my boys. So I've made a conscious decision, which has impacted me pretty well, of, okay, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing. I'm going to work out every day because it's good for me. When I need a break, I'm going to listen to my body and take a break. And just excuses are, it's kind of like a bad apple, right? Like, they're talking about people's negativity is contagious. So are excuses. Yeah. Yep. You know, and it just leads down the path of negativity. And I just personally don't want that. I feel like my boys and all the people that I care about, they deserve the best version of myself. And I can't give that to them if I'm making excuses or if I'm constantly complaining about other people not doing things. Like, that's a choice. And I just don't want to live that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So. Is that why you chose to get out of the restaurant industry then? Just kind of like to have a healthier lifestyle for your kids and your family? Yeah,
actually. So full circle, that my buddy that called me, I grew up with him, and I ended up calling him back because I took a job in the home office because I just wanted to see my kids. I was missing milestones with Max, and it was crushing me. I mean, I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted a family, and Max was like the best thing that ever happened to me, and I never got to see him. So I remember having the conversation with my boss. He sent me, hey, man, there's an opening in the accounting department. I think you should put your name in for it. And I ended up doing it, and I just sitting behind a computer and not talking to people. I was like, this is terrible. So I called him up, and we went out and had a drink, and he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I've known you for so long, I'd trust you right now walking into a house. And he goes, and that says a lot, you know. And I said, okay, so what do I do? He goes, well, if you're in, you're in. That means you got to be all in because it's not easy. It's a long process. And I said, all right, man, I'm in. So I was like, I got to talk to my wife first. So went home. We had like a 2.5-hour conversation about, I need you to understand, like, I'm in. Like, if you're not on board, like, I can't do this because I can't be like half, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. This is a whole career.
How old were you when you made that call?
So
you're not a kid at this point?
No, absolutely not. So I want to say, I got on the fire department at 34, but I started the process in 2017. So I was like 32.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
and what is the process exactly? Like, I don't know, like, yeah.
So it starts off with just an application process, just like anywhere. And once they accept your application, they give you a test date, and then you got to take a written test. Just basic knowledge. Anybody can do it. Then after that, they do what's called a foam test. You sit down in front of a computer. They put scenarios on there. It's just you and a computer, or you and a computer with a camera pointed at you. And then they record your responses. And the best part about it is they're like, you're not a fireman, though. I'm like, well, these are fire scenarios. I don't understand how I'm supposed to answer these questions. Yeah, but you don't have any knowledge about being a fireman. I'm like, this is so subjective. So I was like, all right,
It's
whatever. So
like judgment calls.
Just kind of seeing what you would do as a person.
Yeah.
The interactions. So they give you a scenario, and then they say, respond now. And then you sit there and you give like a 45-second response. And
what's an example of like something on the screen?
So there's a neighbor that lives next door to the fire station. You're like, okay. He comes over hooting and hollering at like noon. You're like, okay. And he's complaining about how every time you leave in the afternoon, like, you blare your sirens and everything and your horn. And he goes, I'm trying to sleep. I work nights. And it says, respond now. It's like, oh shit. All right. Well, hey, sir, just to let you know, it's for our safety. Like, we have to have those on because we want you to be safe as well as us, you know, and usually when they're calling us, it's an emergency. So we want to get there. If it was your family, we wouldn't do anything different, you know? And to me, I was like, this is so unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you answer this?
Yeah.
So, but again, you know, that's part of the process. And a lot of it is if you can have interactions.
Yep.
How are you in a situation to where you have to, number one, you're basically representing an entire city, right? And then also you have to have personality, characteristics. And what are your characteristics, I should say? And then are you personable?
It's a people business for
exactly,
sure.
100%.
You're going out and interacting with the public primarily.
And they want you to feel safe.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you're dealing with a lot of, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of like EMS and people like in, you know, basically getting injured or they're having some sort of an event, even more so than, you know, you're kicking down doors and putting out fires.
Oh yeah. I mean, the glory behind firefighting is obviously fighting fire. That's what everybody wants. But realistically, with all the fire code you have, it's just getting less and less, right? But we are a city, which not everybody does this, but we do EMS as well as firefighting. So most of our runs out of 200,000, probably 160,000 of them are, you could probably safely say, is all EMS. So it's, to your point, like in some districts that we work in, mine specifically, is a lot of people don't have that kind of insurance, right? We're their doctor. And again, like I said, everything comes down to a choice. I mean, how do you look at the situation you're in? My big thing, and I have a really good lieutenant where he's really, you signed the dotted line to be here. Nobody forced you to be a fireman. Nobody forced you to come out here and work at 18s. But at the same time, like when you go into people's houses, yeah, they may not have a lot of money, but show respect because this is everything that they own. Yeah, you might be privileged enough to not live like this, but this isn't everywhere. And I was just like, man, like that was like day one when I was there. I was like, man, I wasn't expecting that. I was like, all right, well, I'll follow you, you know? Yep. And it's true. Like the every day you say it, I would say 90% of the people that we interact with in South Linden they're really good people. They're just really poor.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have the opportunities and funds that, you know, I would like to say most of middle Americans have. They just don't have that. And
you see a lot of sad situations.
Yeah. And it's a repetitive cycle. That's what's sad. You can't, and you don't know. And the sad thing is you don't know how to help them. They're just in that situation. They're like, well, what do you do? You know, but the best thing that we can do that I think the restaurant helped me with is interacting with them. Hey, I'm here to help you. You know, I think a lot of times I have a buddy, you know, Pete that works out here. He was partners with my best friend for quite some time down in South Linden. And he mentioned something to me. He's like, you get off that truck and it's like your home, right? I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, it's like your home. Like you forget where you're at. And I was like, I need you to elaborate a little more on that. And he goes, like you get off the truck and you forget you're in South Linden, don't you? And I was like, absolutely. I was like, now I understand. Yeah, you do. You jump off the truck and you forget that maybe at like 7 o'clock at night, all of a sudden you hear 4 blocks over here, maybe you hear a gunshot. You're like, oh, I'm in South Linden. You forget because when you get off the truck, your main mentality is this person needs help. They're complaining of difficulty breathing. Like you always want to suspect, okay, well, maybe it's nothing. But then when you put them on a monitor or whatever, and you're seeing them having a heart attack, things change.
So they're calling you because they can't afford, like, maybe to call the ambulance or the ER or ER visit or whatever.
They are the ambulance, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of them don't have primary care doctors.
Yep.
So they're just, okay, gotcha.
And they just don't go in.
Right.
Because they don't have the money. A lot of them would be on Medicaid or whatever, and they just can't get seen because they don't have one. And a lot of them have that pride of, I don't want to call you, which is, if they're calling you, know it's bad, usually, typically. So we have some frequent flyers, what we call them, is some people that call all the time. And you know what their main problems usually are, but
we have one of those on our street.
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously. They're here again.
Yeah. All the time, right? Here they go.
Brandon's like, oh, they're fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, maybe.
Hypochondriac.
I'm like, yeah, they are.
Right?
I was like eating breakfast on the porch. I'm like, yep.
It's just an older couple and
they're fine.
The fire trucks out there, you know, once a month, you know.
It's job security.
Yeah.
That's how we look at it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything for the world, honestly. I got into it real quick, Brandon, back to that. So I got on at 34. I started the process at 30 when I was 32. A big thing was, like I said, I talked to Carrie about it, but I was all in. I mean, I worked out every single day for 2 years until I got that phone call. And then
that's awesome.
They send you a PHQ, which is a personal history questionnaire, and it's very elaborate. I mean, it's 10 years of financial, like where you lived. They get your credit score. They check all of your tickets if you've ever had. It's kind of
cool. They're really like making sure you're a good person. They're really like checking your integrity.
Oh yeah. So they do that. You send that in. It's like a Bible. I mean, it's real thick.
You're joining the FBI or something.
You're giving them everything. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they tell you come in for like a 15-minute thing, and then they give you a brief one of those personal history questionnaires. You know, and then you fill that out, and it's like they match it to make sure you're not lying, right? And then after that, you also have to do a polygraph. And after that, you have to do
I had no idea.
a psych eval.
Wow.
And then you have to do a physical, like a stress test. So you pass the physical and stuff, but then you have to get on that treadmill They plug your nose and they put a
VO2 max.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've done one of those. Yeah.
Those are fun.
It is, yeah.
I've done so many of those.
I've done a few of
My
those.
favorite way to do it is on the step mill.
Drooling.
Yeah.
I always felt like
Exactly.
They're horrible. I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
So the way we do it when you're on the department, they just put a mask on you. But the way you do it when you're getting on, they stick a hose in your mouth. You clamp down on it. And I just kept thinking, I was like, my buddy, okay, so being competitive, right? My buddy's like, hey, man, I was on there for 14 and a half minutes. I was like, bet. I'm going to be on there for 15 then. I got to 14 minutes, and I just kept thinking, I'm like, I'm going to kick this, and I'm literally going to fall, and I'm going to rip my teeth out. I kept thinking that. I'm like, this is so hard. What am I doing? And as soon as I hit 14, I was like, I'm done. I hit it. She goes, okay. She goes, you did good. I was like, what's that mean? Did I pass? She goes, you'll find out. And I'm like, what? So they leave you hanging all the time. Like, gas hits the floor. I need you to do this, 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 and this. I'm like, okay. Then after that, they're like, okay, you can hurry up and wait for another 2 months now. We'll get back to you. I'm like,
Yeah, it's
okay.
a long process.
It is. So I had to push my career. So I ended up taking a job with City Barbecue for like 2.5 years, but I already started the process before I took that job. But I had to push that forward because the fire department wasn't guaranteed.
Yep.
So I'm like pushing this career forward over here. I'm working out every single day, and I'm doing everything I can to get on the fire department. I'm calling my buddy and studying with him for the foam test. He's meeting me at how to answer them. And it was so weird to record yourself and to look how you look, because they're like, you can't have your hands going all crazy, man. Like, I was like, is that a thing? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you have to answer these specifically. And I'm like, all right. And I just didn't expect it was that in depth, but it was crazy. And
has it just gotten this competitive here recently? Has it always been this way, like this whole process?
So the process was even harder before I got on.
Okay.
They weren't going through lists. They would probably exhaust your 90 band and probably a little bit of your 80 band. But recently, I mean, we're having so many guys retire that we can't like keep the number staffed, and we need to build fire stations. So like we're kind of, that's what that
because
big
the
contract
city's growing, the populations are growing.
We're more concerned about like when Intel comes in.
Yeah.
Getting
That's
volume.
an influx. Oh yeah. So you got Intel going out there. You got Amazon going out there.
Used to be a lot
Google.
of volunteer stuff out there. Now they have, fully funded.
Oh yeah.
Like out in Johnstown where my parents are now, they built a big old new station out there. I think it's the Monroe one. I mean, it was a little like volunteer one with maybe a truck or two, before. And like, everything's getting ramped up.
Oh yeah. Johnstown will have to absolutely put another one out there. Without a doubt in my mind, they have to put another fire station out there. That's too many people. That's too many. I mean, over thousands of jobs are getting created just by that warehouse. Yeah. So, I mean,
I'd like to kind of get into a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, but just like the training.
Yeah.
So like you were working out, getting ready for the fire department. So probably stuff that was fairly specific to knowing what you were going to do, like trying to make sure you could pass these tests. That started in what you were saying, like around 2016, 17?
2017, yep.
Okay.
So when I really hit it, yeah.
Okay. So you're doing that in 2017, working out
Here?
hard.
Were you working out here?
Nope.
Okay.
So you were at Premier, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And so we
Where we used to have the pool party?
Yes. So we had our pool party.
I know.
I lived right up the street on Sawmill, up by the barn.
Oh yeah, okay.
And my roommate had a membership there, and then so we would go and he could get me in. We'd work out or go to the pool, and then we had all our pool parties there until they.
Still your favorite?
Yeah, I love that. I love that gym. It was great. It was like it was kind of like what I wanted to, like what you're seeing here. I was like, man, if we could have a pool and all this stuff with a CrossFit gym.
See, we should just buid our own pool.
Yeah. Sounds great.
2025.
But I know that's kind of what got you. They, like everything in Columbus, you've been sitting on real estate for a while. You've got a lottery ticket, and it's going to turn into apartments.
Oh yeah.
And so
is that what they did?
100%. Yeah. So it's like everything. Like if you have an old piece of real estate that you had a business in, that's like maybe just doing okay, and then it's in a great spot, like they're right on that corner of Riverside and Sawmill. They're sitting on a gold mine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they're starting to sun that gym down, and then it was Kiri, you can tell the story, but it was Kiri kind of like talked to you about CrossFit, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So Kiri and I went through the fire academy together. She's a really good friend of mine. It's funny because she reminds me a lot of my sister. So we tell everybody like, yeah, it's my brother. Yeah, it's my sister. But yeah, we went through the academy together. We ended up going to the same station, just on different units. And it was kind of weird. I was kind of going through a little funk, right? Because we just graduated. And she's like, what's wrong with you? I was just like, man, everything's just not working. And like I said, like I don't really get into it, especially with just random people. But Kiri the way she kept asking, I was like, all right, look, this is what's going on. Like, I'm not happy with where I'm working out. I don't think I'm getting the results I want. I'm just in this weird area, like spot in my life. We just graduated. We're kind of brand new and going through the new kid stuff. Yep. So that's not really flowing the way I want. And I just told her, I was like, what's next? And she goes, you need to come to my gym. I was like, okay. And it was when we were over there on the other side where the armory is now or whatever. And I was like, all right. So day one, Arlie was next to me. We were doing box jumps. She's like, I just want to warn you just before we went in. She's like, I just want to warn you, you're going to become addicted to this. And I was like, why would you say that? And she goes, because I know how competitive you are. I was like, yeah, we'll see. I was like, trying new things sometimes is like, yeah, whatever.
Yep.
So I am this competitive that we were doing box jumps and I ate it. And now when I say I ate it, it was like the most embarrassing fall you could have ever had. I kicked the box. I went to catch myself. I missed the box. My chest hit the box and then it hurt. So I rolled off of the box and Arlie goes, Jesus, are you all right, man? I'm like, don't talk to me. And I got up and I continued going. I was so mad, but that's the day I signed up. That's the day I was like, I'm in it for the long haul now. I can't let this be my legacy.
Usually that happens to people, they never come back.
Yeah. Hey, you go one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I remember talking to you like.
Thank your dad for that.
Exactly.
That 100%. Day or the day after. And I remember kind of like, maybe not that day. It was within your first week and trying to kind of like wrap your head around, and you were already all in. And I was like we're like halfway through a 5-minute conversation. I'm like, oh, never mind. Like he's into it. He likes it. Like I don't have to do my little sales pitch anymore for the gym. And you've been like, full steam ahead ever since. And so it's been what, 4 years?
Probably.
Is that 19?
So. No, 20.
20? So
it'll be 4 years this year.
Yeah, about 4 years. Yeah.
How many days a week do you usually get in? Like with their work schedule?
So for a while there, before I went in onto the 40 hours and got into paramedic school, I was going like 6 days a week.
Okay. So you just come in here off no sleep. Like, do you like to come in at the end of the shift or?
Yeah. So we go 8 to 8. So 8 in the morning. Like, so say if I worked today, it'd be 8 in the morning and I wouldn't get off till tomorrow morning at 8. For a while there, I would come in on the days I worked, I'd come in at 5:30. Then the next day I would come in, like I would leave work right at 8 o'clock and I'd get here just right around like 8:20 for the 8:30 class.
Wow.
Like that was my regiment. I usually just took Sundays off.
Yeah.
I usually took Saturdays off too, but then I got talked into going to Rev. And it's it's just different because it's not all that heavy lifting. It's more cardio, which is what I like.
Yep.
Taking somewhat of a break.
Well, especially if you're real tired
much,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. So what do you do now? You said you used to do 6 days.
Yeah. So now, and it's actually because I've been dealing with injuries, and it probably because I was going 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Realistically, so a lot of the things. Joking with Dan, which I've gotten pretty close to Dan. I was like, I would come in at 5:30 and I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm almost done with paramedic school. So I'm going to go back to normal. I'll come in at 5:30 and like more often. He goes, no. I was like, why not? He goes, I don't like that version of Tyler. Because you're in and out. You don't hang out. You're not really into it. You just do a quick workout. And he goes, when you come in, like when you're done from work, you actually come in and you work out. And you don't look lazy. I was like, all right, man. So, and now I'm taking it as like, those are my days that I rest are the days that I work. Yep. So I have 2 days on, take a day off, 2 days on, take a day off. So it's giving myself a much needed break that my body truly needs.
Less can be more. Mm-hmm. And this year is another year that I think both of us have kind of figured that out with training and just resetting some things where I feel really good right now from like, I have like a setup, and then I'm like, I have light days or rest days that I wasn't taking before. I just try and push through it, even when I was hurt. And now, you know, to your point, like less can be more.
Absolutely.
And
know?
Julianne was saying that too. Like when she works 12 shifts at the hospital, she's like, I'm going to work out the days.
Yeah.
And I, only do 4 or 5 days a week, and the days I work 12s, it's a rest
And
day.
she's such a good athlete. Like I love like her mindset with everything is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is it your shoulders that are mainly injured? Yeah.
Yeah, you do like GHDs instead of the toes to bar, and that works great for you in the workouts. And the way you modify around things is like something that I think a lot of the other people in class should take note of too, because you get the proper stimulus, like you're getting after it with just maybe a slightly different movement every other workout or something, and obviously it's working great. Like I wanted to like talk a little bit about, so yourself, Mike Sr., Mike Jr., Rick, all just trained incredibly hard for, it's a Spartan race, correct? Mm-hmm. What distance was it? A 13 miler?
No, so we did. So that's the beast.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's the big one.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. No, we did the ultra, which was bigger than that.
Oh,
yeah, we did a 50K. So it ended up being like 32 miles.
That's why you guys had to train.
Yeah, it ended up being a little more than that, because when you failed obstacles, you had to run penalty laps.
Oh my God.
So when I did my watch only lasted 1 lap. You had to run 2.
Wow.
And when it died, it was at 14 and a half miles. But when we asked the group, they said that we were like right around 13. And we still had, I mean, at least 2.5, 3 miles left.
32?
So that's 32 guaranteed that you have to run. And it was down a ski slope down in greater Cincinnati area. It was in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Okay. I can honestly tell you it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh, God.
I kind of jumped in feet first and said, yeah, let's go. And then when they were talking about it, I was like, oh, man, what are you doing to get ready? And then I just kind of followed suit.
Okay. And you guys would train, like you would have, I mean, because I sat down with Mike Sr. and really looked at your training protocol, and he was doing like 8-hour days, like 2 or 3 days a week. Was that kind of like the rhythm?
Yeah. So and this is what's crazy too. So all of our schedules were different. They started a little something. I have a side business too that I started.
Oh, geez.
On top of being a firefighter, I was in paramedic
work on that
school.
when you should be sleeping.
Right. But they're just as busy. I mean, Mike owns some stuff too.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why when I saw him training and stuff, I was like, I can't make any excuses. This guy's got just as much going on as I do. So fine, well, let's make it work. And like, they would come in. They did a couple times. They ran all the way from their house, which I think ended up being more than
I think it's like
8
a little
miles or something.
Yeah, there and back, because we were talking about it's about 4 miles here, a little over 4.
Yep.
So
he would run
that.
Here,
yeah.
Start a 5:30 class, 6:30 class.
You do every class.
Walk on the treadmill for an hour.
Oh yeah. Then you do some bear crawls and crap. Yeah.
And then 10:30, and then we would probably work out till about 11:30. And like there were days that I live twice as far as he does, so I was like, I'll just meet you up there. But there were a lot.
You need to run at the gym too.
Well, get this, there were a lot of times like we would do all that workout with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't run like them, so I'd go home and run 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get my legs ready, which, I mean, it's just as much as it is training. Like it's as much as taking the nutrients, the salt tablets with you.
Yeah.
Those goo runs that the marathoners run. I mean, it's still not enough.
Oh yeah. You're sucking down. I mean, we just did a hike up Pikes Peak, Mike, Kate, and I, and you're eating the whole time, and you're just, it's not, and that it's nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're just hiking up a mountain, and like you can't get enough food in you.
No, yeah, right.
You can't get the I mean, because you're just.
Do they have
cooking,
stations with food?
You know?
Not food. So the problem was we had heats go out. So there was a heat that went before us and ate all the bananas. So that really sucked, because I could have definitely used that potassium.
Assholes.
Yeah, exactly. But they had water stations. They had tons of water. We had Camelbacks.
Okay.
I would say.
So you carry like a fanny pack with food?
So my little Mike did.
Yeah.
But like you have stuff you can put in your pack. I had pockets here, but I also had like a backpack.
Gotcha.
That held that's like 1.5 liters of water, on top of like a storage space for food, and
Like a
stuff.
camel pack or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
With
okay.
a storage compartment in it. So we had plenty of food. What was crazy too was like my lungs and like my cardio was not affected. I never felt like I was out of breath ever. The problem that I had was like my legs were locking
Fatigue.
up, and
Yeah.
I was just
cramping.
shocked. I was like, man, I've never felt anything like this.
I mean, I did what was it? The Tough Mudder, like a 11, 12-mile one about 10 years ago. I mean, there's some running, but it's kind of shuffling between obstacles is what I call it. Like, it's
100%.
not like I would rather do that than run a marathon. You know, just straight running. It's like you do a little thing, and then you're kind of shuffling to the next one. You're just wet and covered in mud. And it's still hard, but like it is at that distance too. It's really just managing like getting energy in, like getting calories. Like I said,
Just
I don't think-
overall fatigue.
100%.
overall fatigue of just being on your feet for that long
Yeah.
and using your entire body because you're throwing, climbing, pulling, jumping.
So how long did that race take you?
So it took me just over 13 hours.
Okay.
And they have a time cap. Is that?
So there's a time cap. Yeah. So you have to make it to the halfway point by like we started at 6:15, and the halfway point you had to be at the transition point before 1:30, or you wouldn't be able to go on. And then there's another mark at 2:30 you had to be at. And then what they would do is they would just basically go out there and just pull you off the course. They'd cut your band off, and a lot of it is because the course closes at a certain time.
Yeah.
So I mean, we made it back at 7. It's just past 7:15.
Wow.
So it was
How did you feel when you were done?
It was kind of crazy because when I got to the very end, at like the last 3 miles, because when you come back over the ridge, you can see where everybody's at. You can see the ski lodge and all that, and you're just like, oh, it's right there. But then you also know it's like, man, I got like 3 miles left. So like it's
not a short distance.
No,
Yeah.
and then so you got a ton of obstacles to go over. Like the A-frame was a big one. The monkey bars, which surprisingly I had no problems with.
What's the A-frame?
So it's a cargo net that goes all the way. I mean, it's huge. It's probably
Yeah.
like 15 feet. Climb up one side, climb back down the other side. And then the monkey bars, which I was proud that I was able to do all that, especially with the shoulder issues. I did on both laps. I did that one. So the problems that I had were like swinging with the rings, just holding on one hand.
Yeah. Those
That's
were so
really
hard
hard
for
on your
me.
shoulders. Yep.
Exactly.
I could not do those.
That is
yeah.
tough.
So getting there, but back to your point real quick, Brandon, about like, yeah, I do the GHDs and stuff, but I have goals with Dan of wanting to be able to do certain movements anyways. Call it my competitive side or whatnot, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I just want the mobility,
Yeah.
doing snatches. I don't need to do them because it doesn't really affect my job, but
Sure.
I want to be able to do it because I know that my joints will be healthy and I don't need to do a lot of weight. I just want to be able to do it and do
Yeah.
it properly.
You could probably use some yoga in your life.
Absolutely.
We're doing yoga. We have that class Sunday.
Yeah.
Should come. Yeah.
I need it. I'll be the first to tell you I need it. I'm not
Yeah.
flexible by any stretch. The things I can do that makes me flexible is usually blowing people away. Like, I can't believe you can do that. I'm like, yeah, me neither. There's a lot of things I wish I could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of movements like that where it's like, yeah, is it overall like a super functional movement walking around in everyday life? Like maybe not necessarily, but getting the capacity to do that, not a super capacity, like a competitive capacity in it, like a snatching, but having that, it means you have a healthy shoulder
Right.
that can get into a good position, or like if you're doing like an overhead squat or some sort of like a really deep squat or a great press where you're locked out in a good position, it means you have healthy shoulders.
Sure.
So like if you can get that capacity, your shoulders will probably feel better.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
like I don't ever think that's like those kind of goals are ever like, no, you shouldn't. I always think like even the party tricks, like go for those, like, the double unders or whatever it is, like work on that skill. You'd be surprised how it all like transfers over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I want the muscle up.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Dan keeps telling me no, and I'm like, I'm going to get to it, man. I'm telling you right now. I got the strength. I just don't have the form.
Absolutely. That's a flexibility move in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
Well, I'll make you stretch with me after the 8:30. How about that?
I need it.
Because I
man.
do a little bit of that after like every class.
Yeah. Well, Dave caught me on one when we was doing kettlebell swings. He came over to me. And this is why I love this gym. I mean, people have your best interest, and I mean, we barely even really knew each other. I think we know each other better now, but he just walked up and he's like, hey man, I was watching you do your kettlebell swings. And he goes, you got to trust yourself a little more. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you got to go down and let it go. Like let the kettlebell flow where it needs to go. And cause I was always stopping it.
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
letting
yeah.
it swing down,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
I wouldn't hinge like I'm supposed to, and that he was big on that. And
Putting the brakes on it.
I think a lot of it is like that's what Dan does too with me, though. It's all just do it. Like you're fine, you're strong enough to do it, and it's like
I was
Trust
like,
in your
I was
body.
like, this bell looks like it's giving you trouble, and you're way too strong to be like struggling too much. It was just that form and technique thing. I'm like, just
it's PTSD. I'm always you were there the day I did it.
What's
The
that?
old gym when I just moved those kettlebells and I blocked my back and I
yes.
crawled back in.
Yeah, God, I forgot about that.
I'm so scared. I'm always going to do it again, which I probably
It's hard
won't.
to trust your back again after like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had a back injury last year and it's, your whole body kind of goes into this shock where it's like, you're like, no, it was so long ago. Calm down.
Yeah.
Like it starts locking back up.
Absolutely. And you
yeah.
feel it once. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's scary.
But when he told me that, I was straight up with him too. I was like, I'm scared. Like I'm scared to go that far because if that locks, I'm out for a week.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, I can still sort it. No, I can't do. I'm like on a heating pad. I'm laying down.
But you know what? And that it's hard not to go into that, but my back starts to like spasm up again sometimes. And it doesn't have to be like you're out for a week. If you can kind of calm down like your mind, your body, your back you'll start to work that mobility back and get it back quicker.
You can get your nervous system to chill.
Yes, it really is about
That
calming down
spasm
like
will
your
let
nervous
go.
system, being like, I'll be cool. I might not be able to go back in CrossFit for a week, but I can come into barbell or whatever. But yeah.
Big thing that I've been working on too is core work. I mean, that's truly it's probably why I haven't been hurt in a while.
Yep.
Is just really focusing on that. So I think it was more of me just being a sissy, and I'm glad I got guys like Dave and Dan to call me out because I need it. I always need it. I need to be kept honest all the time. Trust me.
We all do.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
We all do.
I'll skirt down, so it's a little easier. I'm like, no, man, 70s, grab it. I'm like, crap. Fine.
Well, for time's sake, I have to go coach these little kids. This is a good conversation. This could keep rolling. We might try and have you back on again.
Yeah, man.
This was
Appreciate
awesome.
it. Yeah,
So yeah, guys, we're gonna wrap up here. Tyler, thanks for coming on. man.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
guys, thank you.